5.
Okay, so since this is our first one, let's take a moment here and just kind of talk about the journey that brought us to this moment where we're sitting here together this way.
Mm-hmm.
So, Clark, tell me about who you are, where you came from, and what you're doing now.
Okay, well, obviously, I'm Sean. I've been a realtor now. It'll be 2 years this coming summer. Tim and I have been together working as a team for, gosh, I don't know, 10 years in our previous career, like directly. Together in this new venture that we have, about 2 years as well, obviously. So like obviously I'm a realtor and Tim's a mortgage professional, so it's good that we get to kind of work together and one's front lines and one's behind the scenes. Not all superheroes are on the front lines, every Batman needs a Robin, so it's good that we have that connection and we work well together. And at the end of the day, it's all about helping our clients and achieving our goals and making everyone happy. So I'm happy that we get to do it together.
Yeah, not I'm Batman, by the way.
Yeah. Well, you're tall, so
It's fair. It's true. All right. Okay. Well, a little bit about me then. I spent 18 years obviously we worked together for 10 to 12 of those, but yeah, it's 18 years as a correctional officer. Time came for where I realized it kind of time for a change. So had this opportunity kind of fall into my lap to take a look at becoming a mortgage professional, and decided to take the course and kind of like the idea of doing something different and kind of working for myself and helping people out. And I enjoyed that. A big part of my old career was, having an in-charge kind of role, and thought, I enjoy problem solving and helping out and want to take on a new challenge. So I'm coming up to almost 3 years completed, and just looking to continue helping people out.
Since you started, what was it like transitioning from a government job to a self-employed job at this stage in your life? How did that make you feel, and how did you do it?
I think a lot of times is you talk to people, and we've talked about this, is I think making the switch and going off the shift work and stuff was enticing for sure, was very enticing. I think the hardest thing was going from that standard salary paycheck and hourly wage to you got to make a deal to get paid. And, it's all leveraged on what you do and what you accomplish, and you don't get paid if you aren't successful. So I think the challenge is just learning how to function in a different pay scale. I think that was the biggest challenge doing the job. So what about you?
Well, it's a big change for sure. Starting at 20 years old, having a baby, big life changes. Definitely I don't want to say struggle, but definitely like you really got to work for it. You graduate through the program and you're ready to go. You're excited. You're interviewing all your brokerages. You're having a good time. You're having fun. You're riding new bicycles and seeing which one fits right.
Yeah.
And then you start working and you're like, okay, like now what? It was challenging for sure, but if you want it, you'll get it. And as long as you're learning every day and you're trying to complete a task or grow each day, you'll be okay.
That's fair. I like that, actually. It's
Yeah.
very good. Okay, so then let's move on from that then. So becoming a realtor, what surprised you about the career, and why did you choose becoming a realtor?
I chose to become a realtor because I like the work. I think it's fun to walk through strangers' homes. I think that's kind of cool and fun. I like the freedom of working for myself and helping my clients in the way that they want to help, in the way that I think they need to be helped. Everyone has their own way of doing things. I have my way. Um, but at the end of the day, it's about accomplishing what the client wants. So if you're flexible and you are able to, you know, juggle many things and tasks, then I think it's a good career. And I think I work well under pressure. I work better when there's lots going on. If I just sit around and watch a clock go by, I find that more hard than actually like walking and talking and driving around and working on my business behind the scenes, because it's not all flashy lights all the time. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you got to work on, and at the end of the day, you got to get the job done. So whatever it takes to get the job done, that's what you got to do. How about you?
I think so. I kind of got lucky. I work on Dennis Wheatland, the Wheatland team. Dennis and I are family, and he's the one that kind of opened the door for me to take a chance at this. Wasn't anything that I thought would ever be in my wheelhouse. And he's part of the Castle Mortgage Group, so it's been really nice that you get set into something that's established and very successful, and it made that transition easier. And like I said, I don't think if that opportunity hadn't presented itself, I don't think I'd be sitting here chatting with you
Right.
about our new roles in life. But I think also too, I think that the biggest thing that I learned, or what surprised me most about the career, was, I want to say it would be the emotional impact with clients, the journey that clients have to go through to be successful. It's sometimes hard to look at finances and credit and understanding, where you can be and what you can get. And we know that this last year the market grew exponentially. Where a standard home now, looking at 350, years ago, you're looking at 425 or higher now for just to get into a home. I think the journey to figuring that out, and down payment, and then making sure that people understand the closing costs and legal fees and land transfer and title insurance and all that other stuff. So it's going through that journey with the clients and the emotional side of it, and helping them be successful. I think that's what surprised me the most when switching.
So it sounds like you invest a lot of yourself into your clients, and you really try to build that relationship, that trust, that honesty, that communication. What how do you try to break through to your clients, and how do you try to earn their trust, and give them constant reassertion that you are there to protect them, you're there to act as their protector, because this is, like you said, a very volatile market. It's getting harder for people to enter the market. So when people make the decision that they're ready to go, how do you make that relationship, and then how do you proceed forward with trust, honesty, integrity, and communication, like you said?
I just think it's the communication piece for clients. It's making sure that I'm not a robot. We're all human. We all have ups. We have downs. We're gonna have good days. We're gonna have bad days, and it's understanding that flow and understanding that the emotional journey that they're gonna go on. And I think the biggest thing is what I took from the old job was that it's the empathy piece. It's understanding. You know, I went through a divorce years ago, and I went through all that stuff. And so when I talk to people who, might be on that same path, or have other issues, it's being able to empathize and understand. And really, it's the client has, you want the client to feel fully confident in everything that they do, and that they understand. And I think, making sure that you're listening to what their needs are, and going with what they want, and letting them, and then giving them the options of what's out there. And I think that's the best part of it, is just taking that history that I have and applying it to understanding what the emotional journey that they're going to go on, and making sure that they understand that they got somebody that they can trust, talk to, and feel confident about being open with, right? We want everybody to be successful. We want everybody to be in a home, and it's making sure that they understand that, yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So it sounds like because you're your own business, you're your own person. It sounds like you try to showcase that, like you said, you are human, not robotic. It sounds like you are trying to maybe show the client your relatability and the experiences that you have, and kind of express those with that person. And it kind of helps build the foundation of the relationship that you hopefully have forever.
Oh yeah, I think so. What about you? What do you feel about your side of things? Dealing with clients.
Yeah. One of the things that I really take to heart is, yes, we're in a sales position, but we're not in the transaction business. We're in the relationship business, and if you build bonds the right way, the business should take care of itself. Um, you know, for me personally, it's not the deal I'm working on today. It's the deal that I've earned and respected the client, and the client trusts me to, either refer me to new clients or hire me again in the future. That's really what I care about. It's not this transaction that we're doing now. It's any and all transactions in the future. And that's really how I try to focus my relationships with people, is just look forward in the future. And if you just do everything the right way to the best of your ability, I feel like everything just takes care of itself.
Yeah. Okay, so going on that, talk to me about a misconception that a buyer or seller might have when they're dealing with you as a realtor.
For buyers, I think it's hard. If you're a first time home buyer, it's really hard to get into the market. We've kind of touched that a little bit. The misconception I think for buyers is not being prepared. There's the cost, like you mentioned, the line transfer, all your lawyer costs, everything that goes on behind the scenes. But you really have to plan a couple of years in advance, either with your down payment or your closing cost coverage. Just the amount of work that goes into looking at houses. I've had clients that I've shown upwards of 50 houses to, sometimes more. Sometimes they get discouraged, so you're always trying to reassure them it's okay. This is just part of the process now, especially in our competitive market. It's often, especially for some home buyers, that you get outbid by another person. So it's about bouncing back from that and using that as an experience that you can go into your next offer or your next purchase, learn from that. It's not bad to be outbid. It's just someone wanted the house more, and that's okay. Not every house is for every person, and you live to fight another day. For sellers, I think sellers automatically think, if I put a brand new kitchen or if I put a brand new bathroom in, I'm going to make X amount of dollars more than what my house is worth. And that might be true, but you might get a batch of buyers that don't like your bathroom or they don't like your kitchen. So yes, you're likely to increase your value, but there's no dollar amount. I can't say that if you put a new kitchen in your house, you're going to make 10x or 5x your investment. I just can't say that. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't think anyone does. We're in a highly competitive market right now. So I think if you just have a nice house that presents well and there's great curb appeal, it looks fresh, smells fresh, feels fresh, and you prepare the house properly and you present a good, nice looking house, that will lead to a good profit on your investment that you've made before.
So is that what you do then when you're dealing with a seller and you go in and you look at the house and you're going over on how it would look to set it up to sell? is there a list of things that you kind of give? Like,
Yeah.
obviously you're not going to tell them what to do, but the encouragement part of it on this maybe needs a new coat of paint, or what does
Hmm.
that look like when you're talking to a seller and walking through a home?
Yeah, when I'm doing a consultation, I always say we want to spend as little amount of money as possible to get the most value out of the dollar spent. Could you get more value out of spending $2,000 on painting the entire house on the inside? I think you could. If you spend $10,000 on a kitchen that's totally custom to your liking, I think that might be a negative because it's totally to your style. Whereas if the kitchen's outdated, but everything else is really nice and clean, your windows are clean, your paint is fresh, your floors are clean, it smells nice, lots of natural light, it's in a good neighborhood, the yard is cleaned, the snow is removed, all the windows are, you know, streak free, shiny and nice. I think you're going to get more value out of your sweat equity by getting the house ready to sell rather than spending, a ton of money renovating something that someone might not even like. So I think it's all about balance and actually um, using your money smart and investing more of your personal time and your sweat equity rather than just throwing money at it.
Sure.
What would you, if you have a first time home buyer, Tim, and they approach you because they met you at hockey or somewhere in the community, St. James, um, shout out St. James.
Yeah.
Um,
U13, A1 Canucks, let's go.
Exactly. So someone approaches you and they're like, Mr. Sawchuk, I've never had a mortgage before. I've been in my job for about 5 years now. My partner and I are thinking about starting a family. In the next couple of years, we're interested in purchasing our first home so that we can kind of prepare and get ready for our child. What are some of the things that you think are important, and how would you try to best prepare that person for that day that the purchase made?
Yeah. Like I think that a lot of times there's some misconceptions that happen when we talk to first-time home buyers or people that have lived in a home for a long time are looking to sell. I think a lot of it is, there's been times where it's like, I need to have 20% down. Well, you don't need to have 20% down. Well, I went to my bank. It's the only option I have. Well, no, it's not. I mean, I'm sitting here with you
Yeah.
saying, no, it's not just your option. We have
Yeah.
lots of options, and there are
Yeah.
many options out there for you. And another one that comes along, not just with first time home buyers, but with anybody that's kind of looking to get a mortgage, is the rate is the only thing that matters. And again, that's not necessarily true. You're self-employed. We have to look at things like, adding back on, when we look at your T1 generals, we want to look at maybe there's some options to add back. The rate might be a little bit higher, but I might be able to get you that pre-approval a little bit higher because there's different programs with different lenders that fit. So sometimes it's not always about rate. Yeah, straight cut, sure, rate is great to talk about, and is, but every client's journey, every person has their own story, and we need to figure out what that story is and then find the best program and competitive rate to match that so you can get into that house that you want. And you talked a lot about first time home buyer, and that's, if you've been renting and you've been renting for 4 calendar years, but you were on title before that, you can qualify for first time home buyer. There's lots of options. So I think the best thing to do is, we need to verify income. So pay stubs, letter of employments. We need to look at down payment. Where's that coming from? Who is potentially going to gift you the money if you're going to get gifted money? And looking at that, because what we got to do is we got to make sure that not only do you have down payment, not only is your income matching what we're looking for
Right.
for the mortgage, but we also need to make sure that we're looking at closing costs. So standard used to be 1% on top of your down payment for closing costs. But to be safe, you want to budget maybe 1.5% to 2% for closing costs, just because you don't want to sit down with a lawyer and get. I mean, we know in this day and age, you go to the grocery store and all of a sudden ground beef that costs $17 now costs $30. It's like everything in life and the way that the society is that everything goes up. Every year it goes up. So, making sure that you plan and understand that you do have to have closing costs, and you should be budgeting at least 1.5% on what you're going to be pre-approved for. So, if we sit and talk and you know that you're pre-approved for 400, we'll do what's 1% of that. Having that, that kitty on top of your down payment, because when you go to the lender, they want to make sure that you can close the deal when we get there. So it's just making sure that you have the right documents, understand what you need, and then just setting it up and going through it.
So obviously, it's super important for a buyer to be prepared. What can you tell me about, like, if you can tell me one or two of the most important things to do to get ready a couple years before you contact a realtor? What are one or two things that you would recommend a client do to get ready? Like maybe the first-time home buyers account, RRSPs, just putting money away in a tax-free. What are some things that you would recommend, and how soon should someone get ready to make that purchase?
I think if you're looking at buying a home, or you want to get, or your plan is in the next 2 to 3 years, you want to buy a home, and heck, even if you have some money now saved in down payment, opening a first-time home savings account gives you the ability to pull that money out without penalty, because we know that RRSPs, yes, you can access your RRSPs. You have 15 years to pay it back. With a first-time home savings account, you don't have to pay it back. And the benefit of that too is, like, you can put $8,000 a year into that. I think the cap is up to $40,000, but I'll have to double check that. But you put that money away in that first-time home savings account, so when you go to buy your home, you have that, you pull it out, you're getting an income tax receipt for that money. So that when you do your income tax, you now have that, whatever that number is that you have in there for your first-time home savings account. So I would think that at any time, at any point, get that money into a first-time home savings account.
And if there's two people that are making the purchase, can they both have a home buyer account set up?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, why would you not take advantage of that opportunity?
Yeah.
So it's just making sure, taxes are done. You don't owe income tax. The government always, like anywhere in the world, the government, they have their rules and the policies, and the lenders follow on that. So if you owe income tax, make sure that you got that income tax taken care of before you buy, because it will come up. It will be something that will hinder the deal. Making sure that you're clean, but it's just making sure, hey, how long you've been at your employment? If you're under 6 months, are you on probation? What is it? Well, I don't work full time. Well, are you designated part-time, permanent part-time, right? We worked in the government. We know all the lingo, the rules and the lingo of stuff, right?
The contract. It's got to be in the contract.
That's right. It's in the contract, right? We deal nurses. So I'm permanent part-time at a 0.8. Well, it's a 0.8. So it's making sure that we understand. And then we always look at the 2-year history. So when we talk to clients, we always want to get the last 2 years of T4s, or in a case like right now, where Christmas has just passed, what's your last pay stub in December, so that we can see what you made for 2025 for now, because we don't file taxes now till the end of February.
Right.
So it's understanding what you've done. So if you are part-time, but you made $50,000, then you made $70,000, then we could look at taking what the 2-year average of that is, as long as the current year is higher than the previous year.
Right. I think overtime is the same, if I'm not mistaken. It's a 2-year average of overtime.
As long as the current year is higher than the previes year, then yes. Otherwise, then we take the lower average of what last year would be sold.
So I think that would be important for someone who spends a lot of time working overtime. If they're first-time home buyer, I work overtime, so I want to buy a bigger, fancier house.
Like you did.
I think it's important for someone to take that in consideration, because it's not like you said, through our experience working together, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the greatest term out there for people to understand, right? Like, it's like anything. It's people like, well, my bank doesn't ask me those questions, or my bank doesn't. Well, I mean, if you banked at the bank for 20 years, they kind of know who you are as a client. We're going to somebody new, or we're looking at getting you into, maybe looking at exercising some options to try to increase what your mortgage, what you're pre-approved for. You want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to say, hey, Mr. Lender, I want you to invest $500K and help me get this house.
Right.
the stronger you look, the easier it is for anybody to say, I got you.
So now that we're talking about it, do you think, or I know it's important, but can you explain to the viewer why a pre-approval is different than a pre-qualification and why a pre-approval is so important?
Well, I mean, you can throw tens of thousands of terms, but I think the initial conversation you have with somebody, it's getting to understand where they are, what they're doing, how much are they making, how long they've been employed, and it's developing that relationship with the client and getting an idea of what it is, and being like, okay, well, based off of the numbers, if we were just to talk, this is kind of what we're looking at. Now, mind you, now I haven't looked at credit at this point. I haven't done anything in regards to finding out what the ratios are that you have. Whereas a pre-approval would be looking at what your income is, pulling that credit, seeing what your capacity is, and then finding out what you would be able to be pre-approved for. So that would be a pre-approval. That's me proving your income, me proving your down payment, and seeing where you are, making sure you don't owe income tax and stuff like that. And then I think the approval process is, if you're going, whether you're going 20% down, so you're going conventional, or you're going insured, which is less than 20%. The one thing that I can't prove is what the house is. So when it goes to the lender and it goes to one of the big three, Canada Guarantee, St.Jamesboys, or CMHC, and they look at the house, whether they're going to insure the house or not, they have their own system on what the house is, how it's been developed, and I can't speak to that. So I think that's part of the thing is understanding that term. Get into that, the financing condition for clients. And I think the best thing for why we have that financing condition is just give the ability for the buyer to understand, like, you get into a house where you're bidding and you don't write financing conditions, and the value comes back from one of the insurers and it's $15,000 less than what you bought for, you have to come up with that $15,000. So the financing condition basically is your back door out. It gives time for the lender to look at all the documents that we're going to submit, making sure that they're good with everything. They're going to do their due diligence and looking at your credit history, verifying you don't owe income tax. That's why we ask for notice of assessment, so we get an idea. So if you do owe, always, hey, now go on there, pull out a receipt, show me the current statement showing that you have zero balance. And then again, the house. The only thing that I don't have control of is what they see in the house, and if the house meets the value, or if it was a grow up at some point, or whatever it is.
Right. I think that's why it's so important to have a realtor or hire a realtor that like, and trust, that you can communicate honestly with, because it's a big purchase for a lot of people. It's the biggest purchase they're ever going to make. So that relationship is super important. And for the realtor to have a trusted mortgage specialist, and they're constantly contacting each other behind the scenes, I think it's super important, just to ensure that the financing goes through, and the realtor has a good assessment of the house in a competitive market. Sometimes people overpay, but it's about protecting the client at the end of the day, and conditions matter.
Yeah, conditions matter. Okay, so I mean, that's pretty much leading right into what I wanted to ask you about next. So talk to me and everybody listening, kind of like what your thoughts are on how we work together. How does that process look from your side of the table?
So it depends where the buyer is in their situation, if they're the first time, second time, third time. But the core of it is, hey, Tim, I have client A. Client A is here. Client A wants to go here. This is what we've discussed. What do you think? And how are we going to strategize together to ensure that client goes from A to B protected and is not put in a precarious situation where, we always, at the end of the day, we always want to protect the client. So we're always communicating behind the scenes, whether that's submitting the offer. I'll call my trusted mortgage specialist beforehand. I'll say, okay, we're writing on house, 123 Anywhere Street. This is the list price. This is what we're offering. This is kind of what we're expecting in terms of the price over if we're in a competitive market. What do you think? Obviously, I want the financing condition and anything else to protect the client, home inspection, whatever. But how tight can we make all these timelines, financing in your situation, without putting the client in a bad position? We always want to protect the client. So I'm going to call Tim beforehand. I'm going to say, hey, Tim, we're writing X for house A. We're going to go here. How fast can you do this? He's going to say, I'll get back to you. Tim will get back to me. We go, okay, we come up with a plan together. We write out the offer, we submit the offer, and then we just sit back and wait. Our offer gets accepted. I call Tim immediately. Hey, we have an accepted offer. These are the terms, these are the conditions. I don't have the offer yet. However, if you can start working on it behind the scenes, once I have a signed offer, I'll send it to you. But in the meantime, if you don't mind, can you just get to work on it now? Because our timelines are so tight, we want to ensure that the deal is going to get done and the client's protected, because we don't want to ask for extensions. We don't want to miss out on the house because we missed a deadline on something. So Tim and I are always communicating behind the scenes. When there's multiple houses going on or multiple houses for sale at the same time that we're working on together, it gets a little crazy, it gets a little chaotic, but it's what you got to do. And it's important to protect the client. So, we're always communicating.
Yeah, I agree too. I think, like once you talk to a client, you send them my way, it's me following up, getting all their docs, everything that we've talked about already, and getting in. I think, financing, I mean, in a perfect world, I think financing of 5 business days would be amazing, but we know in a competitive market that those options aren't always necessarily there. And it's just, I think the understanding that the lender has to be the one that has to verify everything that I submit.
Mm-hmm.
I can say whatever I want about the client, and it's what I'm proving about the client.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, it's, like I said, it's keeping in touch with you. Someone's self-employed. We want to make sure we have financing, because if we're looking at doing those add backs, we want to make sure that we have the time for the lender to go through it. And summer being as busy as it is, it takes the lender time to go through. And if they're processing a lot of deals, it takes time, and we want to make sure that we're giving them enough time, not necessarily on what the client has, but again, it's what is a house? Is it worth the value? What's the history on it? Is it matching what the market is forcing? Because we know in a buyer's market, it doesn't matter what the house value is. It's who's got the strongest offer.
Right. And it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Yeah.
And the lenders don't want to put themselves at risk if they're mortgaging a house that's not worth what they're about to give a mortgage for it. If for some reason there's a default, things happen sometimes. That lender wants to ensure that they're going to get their money back or their investment back. So they're only going to lend what the market value is or what the appraisal value is. And sometimes there is an appraisal done. So an appraisal specialist will enter the home, book an appointment through the listing agent, and they're going to go in and they have their whole process. And they're going to report back to the lender. So the lender is going to delay. So now there's this gray area of, is the mortgage going to get approved? The appraiser might find something that previously was unknown. They have access to different information. Sometimes things happen. So it's important that your mortgage specialist and your realtor are communicating with each other, and it's okay to lose a house. At the end of the day, it's okay to lose a house. There is another one. There will be more. It's okay. There will be more.
So there again, right? So that mindset and the emotion that a client has on affecting the buying a home. So talk to me a little bit about the fear of making a wrong decision, or that scarcity mindset versus long-term thinking, and the stress of it all. Like, what is I guess what I'm saying is, what are 3 things you'd love to hear from a buyer when you're dealing with them to help them start right off the hop feeling comfortable?
So first time we talk, I asked the basic questions like, where do you work? How long you been there? I just try to understand the person and where they're coming from, just so that I can help them better. Because if I don't know, then it's hard for me to really help them. And sometimes people are private with personal information, which I understand. To some people, I'm a total stranger, but I have a responsibility to protect the client. So it's important for me to ask those questions. How old are you? Where do you work? Do you have any outstanding debt that I need to know about? Um, and then basically coming up with like a buying strategy to come up with a plan that's gonna get them into the house. If there's things going on behind the scene, like unpaid taxes or credit card debt or something like that, then I think addressing those concerns are super important, because if someone wants to buy a house, I want to make sure that they're in a good position to do so. I don't want them to be, house broke or in a position that might be scary in a year or two from now. So I think preparing everything behind the scenes and just being honest with your trusted realtor, I think that's super important. And realtors have a code of conduct that everything they tell their client is confidential. And at the end of the day, we're here to help our clients. So as much information that we can get, the better.
Yeah, I like it. So if I was to ask myself that question, I think for my side of things, I think some of the questions that I ask is, when I talk to people, and I have a client now who's, they're looking at buying a new build, and the partner of the client is looking at getting school paid for. Problem is that if they change that, they're losing that income,
Mm-hmm.
which then affects the deal. So things that I like to talk about in the journey when we start the journey are things like talking about, if income changes, how that's going to affect things.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at, again, we talk about rate. It's how does this affect my lifestyle? Not
Mm-hmm.
just payment, but how is this going to affect my lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
And then, is this a long-term purchase?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? Like, we're
Yeah.
all in jobs, where people, you know, you might move, the company might get sold, you might have an opportunity to go somewhere with the company.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? It's always a
That's
great question to throw out to
always,
people, because
always.
then it gets them thinking about, am I going to be here a long time? Am I going to be,
Yeah.
do I need to go out and buy a $550,000 home, or do I
Mm-hmm.
go out and buy a home I'm going to be in, where I'm going to build some equity? Because I
Mm-hmm.
know maybe in 5, maybe 10 years, the way the
Mm-hmm.
company is, I might want to go. I might
Right.
have a chance to go to Western Canada. I might
Yeah.
have a chance to go Eastern. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
it's always trying to put the client in a position where they're thinking about everything. Because when
Mm-hmm.
we get, like anything, and we know from our old job, is we get that hyper focus
Yeah.
under stress, and we pigeonhole ourselves onto certain things that matter to us, and we forget to what are the other stuff. So it's always
Mm-hmm.
good when I talk to a client to have that, okay, let's talk,
Mm-hmm.
let's play what if
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of idea, right? And get them talking and get them back, because then in the next day, 2 3 days, there's an email that comes through and goes, well, what about, and I
Yeah.
love that, because then now you're thinking, like, what's
Yeah.
the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's super important to have to build that trust in the beginning, and then that communication. Like we spoke about earlier, but I think it's super important for the client and the broker and the realtor. But I think that's equally important, if not more, that the realtor and the broker can communicate like that. Because if the realtor and the broker trust each other and they know each other and they communicate well together, well, that puts the client in the best position possible. And we, like you said, we want to be, what's the 3 year, 5 year, and 10 year plan for your first house? Do you want to build a brand new house because you plan on being in position A for the rest of your life, or are you going to plan somewhere? You're going to start a family.
Yeah,
are you
exactly,
downsizing? Are you
exactly.
upsizing? Are you, going to go take some extra courses somewhere else because you want to upgrade for your job? Are you going to?
You're a tradesperson.
Yeah.
You might be going into year 2, year 3, year 4. You still got to do your apprenticeship. Are you
Yeah.
going to be able to afford the house if you have to go on the EI for the 6
Yeah.
weeks? And all those conversations, I think, are super important.
Yeah.
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 So, I think at the end of the day, you know, this first podcast that we're starting. I think it's been great.
Yeah.
I mean, understanding the fact that, the client is what matters.
Yeah.
Their journey is what matters. And it's making sure people like us are in a position to encourage, empower, enlighten, and have that success for them. So
100%.
when they buy that home, they sit back and they're smiling and they're happy because they understand.
Yep.
They don't feel like they bought a house because they have to buy a house.
Right. Yeah. I like to tell people, you're not buying a house, you're buying a home. And when you know it's the right home and you walk into it and you walk around it, like, you'll get this smile on your face. Yeah. And that's when you know that's the one. You can buy any house, but you're not looking for the house, you're looking for the home, the right home. There's going to be more out there. There
always is. If it's not this one, it's always the next one.
Turn the page. Yeah. Moving on.
And I guess that's helpful too. Is when, I guess, on your side of things, the more homes you look at, the client has the ability to really adapt and understand what's important on their must-haves versus what wants. I don't want.
Yeah, wants versus needs. Maybe getting rid of some wants and focusing on the needs, especially for your first house, your second one. Your third and fourth house, that's when you've built up a lot of equity. That's when you go for more of the wants.
Oh.
Well, yeah. Thank you for tuning in.
Yes, the St. Jamesboys.
The St. Jamesboys.
Yeah, probably. I'm Tim. I work here at Castle Mortgage under the Wheatland team.
I'm Sean Clark. I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker Preferred Real Estate here in Winnipeg. And yeah, we're local guys in St. James. And
yeah, I think the idea that we have is, we wanted to get this message out there, who we are and what we do. And as we go through this podcast and go through some stuff, we definitely want to be, promoting St. James, because we're, I'm full on St. James boy. I've been here since, I won't say a number because that'll age me, but I've been a St. James boy for a long time. Grew up playing hockey and sports through St. James and stuff. And my family is all St. James. And this is, we're excited to have this journey, and we hope that you tune in, and we look forward to having some fun this year with this.
Yeah. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the St. Jamesboys podcast.
If you have any questions or you want us to talk about anything, drop us a comment. Talk soon.
Adios. That was like 43 minutes.